Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Sharu with Vedic Astro weather forecast for today, April 22nd, Monday. Really funny, I started this presentation and talking about this volatile energy of right now at 12:45, like in about 25 minutes, Jupiter, which represents the teacher ultimately, is going through this really volatile zone. And so literally the teacher who I'm teaching you about the sky crashed like so it's really funny. And so this zone in the sky is called the Gandanta point. And it's known as the karmic knot, if you will. And it represents really compacted, complex, deep issues. So if people have this in their chart, life could be really confusing, or they feel like they don't have support. They're in this kind of transition zone all the time in their life. And to tell you what part of the sky this is, we have basically between each of the water and fire signs, we have no transition point between the Vedic constellations. So we have 27 Vedic constellations, and you'll see here between Aries up above and Taurus, there's a Kritika there, which is the Pleiades, and that helps the transition between the sun signs. But in between the water signs and fire signs, where little circles are, there's no transition point. And so it's like this extreme transition of elements, where ultimately it goes from it goes into water, into fire. And so it, lets off all this steam, and great transformation happens and occurs. And so right now, Jupiter is going through this point and literally is at 0 degrees Sagittarius and is going backwards into Scorpio. And so basically, what this means is that all the things that Jupiter represent, the teacher, our religious belief, churches, which we'll get into, and even finances could be a little wonky. And some people are like, "Gosh, I don't really feel this that much, Sharu." Well, that's because maybe it's based on your particular makeup that you're not influenced heavily by Jupiter. Maybe you're a Jupiter rising, like you're a Pisces rising or a Sagittarius rising. You might be feeling this more, or you're in a Jupiter cycle or a Jupiter dasha cycle, and then you would be feeling it more. And then it just depends on your chart of which area of life is being stimulated. Perhaps it's relationships or your children and such. And so you won't know until you really know what cycle you're in your chart. And anyways. So what's interesting is what I've been seeing in the news really lately is all these things happening. Literally Sunday, we had all these bombings in Sri Lanka of all these churches. It's like, wow, Jupiter, the beginning part of Scorpio is this constellation Mula. The bottom right circle there is the constellation where Jupiter is crossing through. And Mula means the root, and it's pointing towards the center of the galaxy. And so the Vedic mystics and even the scientists know this is like a destruction or like a black hole kind of energy. And so they gave this rulership to Nriti, who later became Kali, and the goddess of destruction. And so Jupiter is going through this constellation in this really volatile zone of destruction. So we're seeing these, bombings of churches happening, and literally the cathedral church, also caught on fire during this period. And it started around like March. The end of March is when Jupiter went into this zone. And so one of on my group page, which you can go to my Facebook group page and get all this content organized, I was talking about this black hole energy, and she posted a picture like, look at that. There's a black hole in the church right there. How fascinating. And then also I realized, now they actually took a picture, and it's like this big deal that they took a picture of a black hole. So and Jupiter, it's the biggest planet in our solar system, and so it really lets us tune in to wherever it's at. It has the most gravitational pull and allows us to tune into the most energy that's pulled into our solar system besides the sun. And so Jupiter in this position is letting us know about these like black hole areas. I find it really fascinating how this works. Really, really amazing. And so, yeah, we're going through this deep Jupiter time of going through our belief systems. What is the truth? What can survive the scientific scrutiny, or what do we actually believe in? And that's what this whole last couple of weeks has been about. And so people, with these bombings, maybe are getting fired up about their particular belief systems and want to do something about it. And also interesting as well, it's in the sun sign Sagittarius, which represents religion in general. So that's really up right now. And so also what's happening is the moon is approaching Jupiter right now in the later constellation within Scorpio, which is Jeshta. And so wherever the moon is, we're getting a spotlight of that energy. And so we're basically really an opportunity to all of this, maybe digging up, if you're in a Jupiter cycle or you're heavily influenced by Jupiter, digging up of like what we truly believe in, even our finances. And it's giving us a chance to have this upgrade tonight. It conjuncts at about 4:42 a.m. PST. And so, tonight, before you go to sleep, or even when you wake up for morning sadhana for those hardcore Kundalini yogis out there, it's an incredible time for a full-on, galactic and cosmic upgrade tonight. The moon really, I don't need to argue with anybody how the moon influences us. And so wherever it goes in the sky, it spotlights that energy. So really great maybe before you go to sleep tonight, or when you wake up for the sadhana, to just make your intentions for what you want to upgrade in your life, energetically. And, just fully get that cosmic download here. And then maybe wake up with those superpowers, woohoo! You're going to be on fire if you align those intentions, correctly. And so the energy of today, in wherever the moon is, like I was saying, is this Vedic constellation Jeshta, and it means the eldest, or it seeks that kind of like authority in seniority and wants to be the boss. So here we have Swagger, Boss Kitty here, definitely represents Jeshta. And it's just to have that eminence. It's ruled over by the god Indra, who's the king of the gods. So he wants to be the top. And so it's kind of the more intense part of Scorpio, the part of Scorpio that gets like that bad rap. It's all about wanting to rise and conquer, and the like manipulation thing, and wanting to be the best ultimately. Here's a really funny thing. Look, he defeated him. Yay, one rock, paper, scissors. Cool. and so, you want to watch out for people around you, creating these kind of dramas, maybe just stay out of it. But more importantly, within yourself, not creating this struggle within yourself. Feeling the moon doesn't do so well in Scorpio. It's like wants that power, it wants that security and support, and there's nothing to stand on. You're fighting maybe these imaginary enemies. And so, again, always, I'm going to do this again. The deep breathing kitty is always the solution. To just relax and calm. And anyways, but just stay out of those kind of intense. Excuse me. Well, let me just say, Trump. This is where his natal moon is. So it's about boundary issues, right? So he's like number one famous right now for those boundary issues. So hilarious. He's trying to build a wall, and it's ridiculous. But it just shows you astrology in motion here. So now we're going to do a chart reading here pretty soon. But, I just want to say, like I was saying, all these transits affect us differently. We're all unique, like a snowflake. We all have different configuration. And so we're going to find out here how it's specifically affecting Alana. And if you want to know from me how it's affecting you, if you're going through a lot right now, it could be really helpful to know which area of life this Jupiter transit is happening, so you can know how to strategize and how to orient, and also what cycle that you're in. Because, we're all unique in our own rights, and some of us are doing great right now. We're happy snowflakes. But, some of us are doing the meltdown snowflake right now. Our snowflakes, our configurations are melting. But like I was saying, it could be an opportunity for a new, nervous system, a whole new structure of your consciousness, of your physical body. And so take advantage of that tonight. Okay, so let me pull up Alana here and add her to the call. And we will look at her chart. So, all right, there she is. Yay. And let me add her here to our call here, or our presentation. Yeah, great. Hi.
Hi.
Yay. How you doing?
I'm doing really well. How about you?
Oh, fantastic. Doing so good.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was so funny how I was like, hey, the energy is really transitional today. And then the computer crashed. It was just like a perfect example for me.
What are the chances?
Yeah, well, what's funny is when I was putting out the call today for who wanted their chart, I was like, I know it's going to be somebody that has something to do with this Jupiter, crossing this volatile point. And sure enough, it's exactly represented in your chart. And so let me pull you up here. And it's hilarious because remember I was asking you, well, first of all, can everybody hear both of us on the Facebook Live? Or actually, can you hear me? If you turn on your Facebook Live, can you hear yourself? And
Yeah, I can.
okay, great. Fantastic. And so, yeah, remember I was asking you, that 5 p.m. time is 1 minute ahead, and it would be something totally different.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it turns out that point of your rising sign is the exact point that I was talking about. It's
Wow.
right. Yeah, it's right at 29 degrees, like 47 minutes at that 5 p.m. time is your rising sign. And so you were born under, this volatile zone that this whole presentation was about. And of course, like, what are the chances of that? But I don't get surprised by this stuff anymore. Because I just open myself up to the magic, and astrology works really through divination anyway. And so let me pull up your chart here. But before we get started, what kind of questions do you have? Maybe because it could just kind of help orient and guide the reading a little bit.
Yeah. I was wondering just, do you have any insight into where in the world I would thrive better than other places?
Okay, well that's an astrocartography reading.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I need to enter your info in a different program.
Gotcha.
So we can look at that, but give me a second here to pull you up.
Cool.
And but also besides a location, well, like what do you want to get out of a location ultimately? Like,
Well, I'm trying to figure out where I want to go to school.
okay,
Yeah.
great, cool. All right. Well, that's helpful. Okay, my one program isn't opening up, so I'm going to go for the other one.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, just tell me your birth info again.
August 1st, 1994, in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
5 p.m.
Yeah.
Fort Lauderdale. Okay. Great. So I don't have to change the chart because this is your rising sign is Scorpio, right where the moon is today, right in this constellation Gestra, which I was just talking about. Yeah. And so you have Saturn here, you have Jupiter with the North Node here, Venus in Virgo, and Sun and Mercury in Cancer. And so in the Western system, you're a Leo Sun, but what we're doing, we're basing it off of the actual stars in the sky. And so if you were to ask an astronomer or just look up in the sky when you were born, the sun was in Cancer. But just the point of, your rising sign's like right here, right on the edge of Scorpio and Sagittarius. And so, would you say that your life, you're constantly moving around and going from this thing to that, and things are just transforming all the time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So we know that we have somewhere around your right birth time, because, it's like you're in this place of transformation all the time, and that can make life a little bit more difficult to orient towards. Yeah. But, and so let's just do a really quick chart interpretation here, and then hopefully my software will open up for the location, and I could show it to you. Yeah. But so let's just say you're Scorpio rising, and so then we have Mars with the moon here, and so in the place of relationships, and so having the moon in this position, as well as your rising sign planet, means you get a lot of information and identity through partnerships, and it might be a little bit more passionate and fast, because you have Mars here, and so it's more kind of like assertive, fast moving, faster romances, so to speak. Would you say that was true?
It can be.
It can
definitely.
be, yeah. But it creates this really kind of assertive quality within yourself as well. Having the moon with the Mars, you can be quick to like emotional upsets or like even like emotional happiness, but then it could cool off faster as well. But it can be like really triggered really fast. Would you say that was true?
Yes.
Yeah. And so, yeah, it's like, gosh, there's like big partnerships, and it's Scorpio rising, and it's that whole like, dare I say the word tantric dance, of the masculine, feminine, and it's all really exciting. And then, and so, your sun being in this constellation in the ninth house, and so you're also like oriented towards like higher belief systems and higher like teachings even, wanting to create this like spiritual energy. Your sun's in this Vedic constellation Pushya, which is all about the teacher, or it's almost like a priest doing the fire rituals to create that spiritual energy. And so that's also a big part of your life. And the ninth house is really connected to your career in this case, because Leo rules the 10th house of career, and it's going into the ninth house of the teacher. And so, yeah, as far as career goes, what are some of the things that like you've been into or you like want to do?
Well, I'm planning on going back to school for psychotherapy.
There you go. So you're in the right thing, right? Obviously, because you could just know for sure that your dharma, your path, is to be that teacher, to be that advisor, and to express that. And also this right here is like your clients, the one-on-one partnerships and client work. And so that's also, doubly how you're oriented towards like, how do I bring out this light and passion in other people? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, so this right here, Jupiter with the North Node, they say that it creates the like witch or the heretic, because the North Node Rahu is very alternative and outside of the box. And so Jupiter being, just pure like religious and religion, it's like, okay, you're going to be a total, freak witch, right? And I say freak in a endearing sense, because
of course
I'm a freak too. Yeah. And but it's in the 12th house. And so that's all about, international travel, and also higher states of consciousness. So it's like you're seeing the bigger perspective, and maybe that bigger perspective can elude you, instead of just following straightforward, whatever religion or system. It's like you have to question it. You have to make sure it's true for you too. And it's always this questioning. And so sometimes it's like, rather than learning from experience, you have to like learn the hard way. It could be harder to like listen to advisors and teachers, right, and such. Yeah. Okay. And so now this too, Venus in Virgo, that's known as the psychologist's Venus, actually, because Virgo is where we get analytical and we get really detail oriented. And so with relationships, it's almost like analyzing the pleasure, analyzing the bliss, mm-hmm. So it's like getting really, okay, like how did I achieve that state of happiness? Or like, I really want to pick apart my relationships, right? And so usually after a while, people are like, okay, what's this all about? I have to figure out relationships. I have to figure out my interactions with people ultimately on a deeper level. And even Venus is in this Vedic constellation, Uttara Falguni, which is all about wealth through contracts, through client work, through marriage. So it's like very associated with like, how do we create this stability in partnerships ultimately? So pretty powerful. And then you have this really strong Saturn here in the 4th house. And so this is your inner emotional world. And it shows this, when it's retrograde, it shows this more obsessive quality of going deep into those inner states and wanting to, commit and to really ground into all the different healing ways to help all the people. Saturn's in the Vedic constellation Shatabisha, which means 100 medicines or 100 healers. And so, it's obsessing over the 100 different medicines or 100 different healing ways. And this is a really powerful energy. Whenever it gets into one of these foundations of life, in its own sign of Aquarius here, it forms the Shasha Yoga, it's called, or like the manager or the organizer. So it's like organizing the abstract cloud of 1,100 medicines, right? And grounding that in. And so it just takes time, to get to know 100 different ways, right? 100 different medicines. Cool. So now, do you have any questions about that?
No, not yet.
Okay. And so you're in the major cycle of the north node of the moon, of this Rahu right here. And that was going since you were 16 years old. And it goes till you're 34. And so what it does is, well, one thing, it stimulates the 12th house of international travel, of wanting to travel around, and it stimulates that being the witch, having a totally different view on the normal consensus reality belief systems. And so ever since 16, maybe that's when you totally started turning in a super alternative way. Would you say that was true?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, okay, now we are not the same as other people. And
Right.
let's go to the other parts of the world and figure that out. Where did you start out? Would you stay in Florida your whole life, or did
No.
you traveled around?
I did travel around. I was born in Florida, but I grew up in Canada. My first big international trip was actually when I was 16 to Thailand.
Oh, there you go. That's so funny.
Hmm.
And it's pretty rare that people at 16 would do that.
Right.
So it just goes to show like how accurate these cycles are. Yeah. And so now I'm going to enter your info into the other astrocartography program. And so August, sorry, say it one more time.
August 1st, 1994.
Okay. And the time was 5 p.m. in Fort
Hmm.
Lauderdale. Okay. All right. Great. So I'm going to pull this up here. And I'm going to share my screen and show you what's going on here.
Okay.
All right. So, yeah, this is really fun stuff. I love the astrocartography. And it's, of course, you would want to ask that question because of the cycle you're in. Like, where do I
Right.
travel? Okay. And so are you in Nevada City right now?
I am, yeah.
Okay, great. Well, what you can see here, so these lines give their influence about 4 degrees on either side. And so there isn't any major influences that maybe like Jupiter rising is influencing and this Pluto, but you're pretty free and clear of major influences here. So I use the analogy of, like, let's say you're up here in BC, Canada. It would be like you're getting Jupiter energy. And so like the yellow sapphire is the Jupiter stone. So it would be like wearing a yellow sapphire if you were in BC, Canada, it's like you're getting that Jupiter energy, right? And so Jupiter rising is a great line because it's like that guru, that teacher is coming from within you, so it's really everything. You're more optimistic and feeling good about life in that location. And so, and then when we get down to Southern California and Vegas, then we have Pluto rising and the North Node rising. So that's a little bit more tumultuous. That can cause a little bit more like, gosh, things are always transforming, and things are always, you just keep going into yourself and keep, it's just not such a good place to go unless you have your full power, in alignment. It's like you have your practices, like Pluto rising can be really, really potent if you have your transformation game under control. Yeah. Okay. So where did you want to go to school? What are some of the locations?
I was actually thinking about Portland, Oregon.
Okay, great. So yeah, then I would definitely recommend it. This whole Jupiter line, Jupiter represents this Sagittarius energy, that higher education. And so, all this whole zone would be really incredible for your education. And then to get even more detail, we do what's called the Paran lines, where it's these crossing lines. So you see right here, down in Southern California, where the Pluto line and the North Node line are crossing. Well, that draws a line across the whole world as the world turns, and it gives that Jupiter crossing North Node energy. And so by doing this, I can tell a little bit more, like north or south, what are the influences. So I'm going to draw those lines, and then now it's going to get really messy. And we can zoom in here on Portland. And okay, we have the sun and the moon crossing here. Now, to just get the exact coordinates, I'm going to just type in Portland here, and then it's going to give me a readout of what these crossing lines exactly are, whether they're rising or setting.
So fascinating.
Yeah. Endless geekery to be had. Okay. And so this is just a general report that Solar Fire pumps out. And so I give about 4 degrees of influence. So like I said, that Jupiter rising line is just within reach, and one of the best lines on the planet for you. It really brings in your 5th house, which Jupiter rules Pisces for you. And it just brings that higher dimensional thing you got going on with your Jupiter in the North Node, but Brings it into your power zone of like how you create in the world, like your passion. So Pluto's out of reach, 6 degrees. And so Jupiter's that major line. So it'd be like wearing yellow sapphire there. And so the crossing line is moon rising, crossing with the sun below the earth. So that's great. The moon rising puts you in touch with your needs and feelings, and you have a really strong moon. You have an exalted moon in this place of like growth and creativity. And then the sun below the earth means like, oh, you're going to take pride in the land there. Take pride in like your ancestry. And so it's really strong. It's bringing in, the guru part of you, which you have the sun and the sign of the guru, Pushya. And it's letting you stay in touch with your needs and, your sensuality and your beauty and artistic everything, just from where your moon is. And it, since you have it with Mars, it'll really light you up too. So far Portland seems like number one. Pretty incredible.
Awesome.
Yeah. And so then you also have moon setting, crossing with Venus above the earth. That's another great thing. Because remember, you have that psychologist Venus. And so Venus above the earth is like, oh, I'm going to have Venus for what it represents in your chart, in career. Perfect. Studying psychology.
Yeah.
And then the moon setting, it gives you more of what you already have going on in your chart of that, being in touch with other people's needs and feelings. And so with these crossing Paran lines, I only give 1 degree of influence, so we won't talk about this. Cool. Okay, what are the other candidates for stuff that you wanted to look at?
I was also thinking about Berlin.
Cool. All right, so let's chunk out here and let's get rid of all this confusion and just look at the major lines first.
Cool.
Okay. And Berlin. Oops. All right, well, looks like there's no major influence in Berlin. So similar to Nevada City, it's just free and clear. I consider no influence a good influence. It's just like there's nothing pushing or pulling. Even a good thing, too much of a good thing, that saying, could be too much of a good thing. And so let's look at all the Paran lines here. And then now we can get even more detail on Berlin. Yeah, so let me pull this over. So we got Venus and Pluto. All right, let me just go straight to the report to see if it's rising or setting here. Now, Berlin would be cool just because you're in this North Node phase. And just traveling around in general would be awesome for you to do anyways. But let's see Berlin. It might be cool to go to Berlin for short periods.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so there's no major influence. I only give 4 degrees. And then we have, so Venus below the Earth, crossing with Uranus setting. Oh, so that'll be a lot of fun. Venus below the Earth really helps you feel happy and satiated in the land. But in your Virgo quality, you'll be a little bit more German about it. Like really detail-oriented, precise, like picky, maybe like a little bit more emotional, kind of dissatisfied in a way. But it'll also help you really carve out that analytical nature that you have within your inner emotional world in your relationships as well. And crossing with Uranus setting, then it's going to give you people. The setting is you're going to get that energy from other people, of people that are going to totally change your paradigm. Uranus is about breakdowns and breakthroughs. And it's like an Aquarius energy in a way of totally like freaky, weird people. And so it'll be a cool place to go to just through relationships, just doesn't have to be romantic, for totally to shift your whole idea of your whole reality. So, Berlin's cool to go for that kind of energy, right? Maybe not so good for stability and feeling like stable and good, but more for totally shifting your whole identity and your whole self. And then we have Neptune above the Earth, a North Node setting. And that can make Neptune above the Earth could be good for expressing spirituality and artistic endeavors out in career, but it can also be confusing. Like it's infinity. What's my career? I don't know. It's that thing. It's infinity, right? It makes it kind of more diluted. And then North Node setting, it's obsessing over other people more. Like the energy goes more to other people and you spiritualize yourself. And then finally, the other secondary influence is Uranus rising with Pluto above the Earth. So, then it'll cause you to be this internal, breaking down, breaking through.
I lost you. There you are.
Okay, cool. So the Uranus breaking down, breaking through within yourself, and expressing that transformation above, out to the communities there. So we can tell with Berlin that that's a place for more transformation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not so much for stability in yourself.
Right.
So it's a great place to travel, to change things up, but maybe not to stay for extended periods of time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. That makes sense.
Yeah. Cool. And great. So awesome. Is there anywhere else?
Could you also check Winnipeg, Manitoba?
Sure. We'll just keep those lines there. Okay. All right. Where did it go? Okay, let's just try to zoom in on the Winnipeg. It's a little janky program. All right, so there isn't any major influence again. So, but let's see, that secondary line is Chiron crossing with the North Node. So that's more of this like wounded healer crossing with this like more obsessive quality. So Winnipeg's probably like the least advisable one.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. But so definitely Portland, as far as astrocartography goes, is your best bet. It goes along exactly with what you're trying to do with education, with the Jupiter line. And you're also getting these really beneficial secondary lines. So I think you'll really, really thrive in Portland.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. Fantastic. All right. Well, do you have any more questions about your chart or anything?
I don't think so.
Okay, great. Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you so much for this. This was really insightful.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, thanks for being on the Sharu Show.
It was my pleasure.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, we'll talk to you another time. And
Yeah, that
thanks.
sounds great.
Yeah. Okay. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. That was great. I love doing the astrocartography. It's so much fun. And it's just a little bit more extra confirmation that you need sometimes. And so, but really fascinating. And if you go to astro.com, you can get the astrocartography is going to look the same, whether it's Vedic or Western, because, you know, for instance, if you were standing in Portland when, or BC when you were born, when Alana was born, you would see Jupiter rising no matter what, not depending on whatever constellation was behind it. And so, you know, it's really fascinating and super fun. So, yeah, if you want to schedule a reading with me and check out what cycle you're in and why you want to travel around and do education and why certain parts of the world feel better than others, yeah, you can schedule a reading with the link up above. All right. Well, I'll see you guys tomorrow around the same time, 12 noon PST. So many blessings.